Welcome to American Education FM, everybody. I'm Dr. Sean Brooks. Welcome back, everybody. Let's get into it. A little Psyop aftermath here. First of all, thank you for checking out the Substack article if you did. It got moved around a lot, which was nice. It was on greatawakening.win. I think it was stickied at the top of their board over there for at least a full day, if not longer than that, probably 2 days. Plenty of positive comments about it, which is great, and a lot of people, again, bookmarking it, which is cool. And they, of course, can copy and paste the entire thing into a Word document and keep it if they want. The only part about, Substack, which I'm not a fan of, is that I wish that people could just very easily download the videos that are embedded inside of the actual articles. That would be beneficial. Again, if a person wanted to keep their own archive of particular videos or particular proof, then they could certainly do that. But either way, glad that people read it. It exceeded the number of subscribers that I have, and that was article 199 on Substack. I haven't written all 199 articles, of course. Cicely Hellickson's written a few, John Clement's written a few, Vanessa Hurst has written a few as well. And I'm grateful for their contributions to that Substack page over the years, certainly since 2021 when I started it. But the 200th article is coming out this Friday, and it's a doozy. And it, of course, pertains to an education case that I've been a part of and paying attention to and was deeply involved in approximately a year ago. And I just find the irony of all of that to be not coincidental. So it's coming up on exactly 1 year ago when I wrote the first article about Principal Jason Mers in the school district of Talawanda City Schools in Oxford, Ohio, where I live. And I've got another one coming out on Friday about him as well, pertaining to the Title IX investigation. And as I've brought up just very briefly in the past, of course, and I just want to be brief here with this, is that he, of course, is coming back to his position, although under very, I would say, unusual circumstances, to say the least. The board members have not read the Title IX investigation. That's beyond evident. And even if they have, and they still reinstate him, which of course they've given him a 5-year contract extension and the whole thing, then that's beyond problematic as well. So they're in Zootsving, whether they know it or not. And professionally and personally, this decision to bring him back will be the end of them. So when you hear of people saying that people won't be able to walk down the street after particular decisions that they've made and revelations that are exposed to the public, this is certainly one of them. So make sure and give that Substack article a read and a share if you can. You know, you can give it a thumbs up, a heart, whatever you want. You can even comment on it if you'd like on Substack, but that'll be coming out on Friday morning at 6 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. Okay, let's get into the Psyop aftermath a little bit here. I'm not going to spend the whole episode on this, but there is some interesting things and a lot of inconsistencies, as there would be in a psychological operation, and yet more proof that it was a psychological operation. First of all, they, again, quite predictably came out with this manifesto. That in this manifesto, it speaks about Donald Trump. It speaks about, again, political violence and right-wing extremism and blah, 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 blah. The manifesto thing, that whole narrative I've been over on the show before. Anytime one of those pops up, it's a psychological operation because many people who engage in a crime don't do such a thing. Not to mention the sloppy nature of the entire, whatever, we'll say sloppy nature of the actions of this Cole Allen. That particular part of it, again, indicates that you're probably talking about a CIA-recruited Manchurian candidate, borderline autism, and then again being controlled to an extent to do a particular thing in a particular area at a specified time, regardless of their level of effectiveness. There's a flip side to that coin, and even I would say a different side of that die, if you wanted to look at it this way, is that when a lot of people think of MK Ultra, for example, which is a very real thing, I've written about it before on Substack, spoken about it here, you're well versed in it, I would assume. That when that exists, white hats can use that also. That white hats can use a Manchurian candidate of sorts to get what they want. And all of the things, again, that they want to achieve, or the things that they, again, want to accomplish, or something they want to install, or legislation that they want to pass, or whatever. That's all a part of a psychological operation, but it doesn't mean that such an action or such a program is only controlled by individuals who are black hats, or even gray hats. This is something, again, that can be controlled by white hats as well. Again, the very sloppy nature of the individual, this Cole Allen, running through past security, which again, in the original security footage, it's grainy. And then what happened was, and this is again part of the psychological operation too, and it even confuses your average onlooker and even your average analyst to an extent, is that online they took that video, that grainy video, and they openly said that they tossed it into an AI system to clean it up, to take all of the pixels out and to clean up the imagery. Well, when that happened, it altered some of the video, and then people were sharing the altered AI video, which was the cleaned up version of the original video, and they were saying, this is clearly AI, this guy really didn't run past these people, it was fake, blah, blah, blah. The individual ran past security. That's a fact. But there's a detail in any video you watch which is rather questionable, to say the least. The acting attorney general, Todd Blanche, he openly came out and he said that he was carrying and fired a Mossberg shotgun. First of all, the shots that you heard in the background of the video that many people have seen was not that of a shotgun. That was probably a pistol. On top of that, no one runs that fast with a Mossberg fully loaded shotgun in their hands. It just doesn't happen. Most people don't do that. So if that happened, which I doubt, then that's very sloppy. But the story of him apparently using a shotgun and firing a shotgun and then allegedly hitting a security guard or a Secret Service agent in the bulletproof vest, that story again was being reported by Janine Pirro and other individuals, and they're even backtracking on that and making it sound like, hey, we don't know if that really happened either. There's just too much of a ping pong game going on with things that should be known immediately. Was someone injured or were they not? Were they shot at or were they not? What gun was the person carrying? Because the video shows that it's likely that the individual was running past security with a pistol in his hands, not a shotgun. And then, of course, the footage of him basically being stripped naked, you would assume, and then they have the tinfoil over top of him because they're covering him up because, again, they're looking for other weapons, explosive devices, things of that nature. So that in itself is a very, again, high indicator that this was a psychological operation and that this individual, again, was probably an MK Ultra individual who, again, was recruited by either one side or the other to do something. Again, I think I said this in the last episode also, it's not unusual for black hats to do something like this, but white hats to know about it, and then white hats to intervene somewhere along the way, and basically, again, just interject some altered plan in the middle of all of it to let it transpire, and then come in on the back end with their own plan to, again, sort of sell it for everybody. And then, again, a la Butler, Pennsylvania, make it look like this is what the bad guys really wanted, but we are really in control. So another indicator of this also being a psychological operation, I believe, and this is, I think, the dead giveaway, is the C-SPAN footage that is further back, and I included this in the Substack article retroactively, so you can go back and watch it also, and it has a big red arrow on the right side of the screen. There were at least 2 individuals on stage who did not get off of the stage when the noises started occurring and the gunshots, and then people started again in mob mentality form, started watching each other get up from the tables and move and run around and all of it. Dive under the tables and XYZ. The individual is on the right side of the stage. They're wearing bow ties, and he has thinning hair. He's a white guy with thinning hair, presumably, and he doesn't move. In fact, he's the one filming J.D. Vance be taken off the stage. He's the one filming Donald Trump from the right side of the stage, exiting stage left, with his wife and Carolyn Levitt and everybody who's on the left side of the stage. He's as cool as a cucumber. And he's sitting right there. He doesn't flinch. He just grabs his phone and starts recording and leans back in his chair like he's watching, again, an operation, a staged operation. As I said in the last episode too, I think a major indicator of this also, and I said it in the Substack article, is that as soon as he starts recording, he pulls out his phone, he starts moving it around, and he's recording. You have the Psyop operators themselves jump on stage. One of them jumps over the stage. Another one goes to exit stage left in front of Trump when he's on the ground with his wife. And then the other operators have the entire stage basically blocked off. And what they're doing is they're moving their guns around aimlessly into the crowd. One of them even has, again, a flashlight on his gun, and he's shining it into the crowd. Another individual in the middle of the stage does the exact same thing. They're wearing the helmets. They're wearing the vests. They have short-sleeve shirts. These are the PSYOP operators because they're dressed completely differently than everybody else. They're not undercover. They're not Secret Service. And then you have three guys in fatigues. Again, PSYOP operators, and they run across the stage. Two of them have massive backpacks on and are carrying massive backpacks, and it's just beyond odd. But that's kind of that's the dead giveaway video, in my opinion, that you're not watching your average assassination attempt, so to speak. You're watching something that's clearly coordinated. Let me get into some of the comments now on the Substack article. This was over on greatawakening.win. First person said, great article, thanks. Another person said, that one video was like watching the Keystone Cops. Another person responded and said, yeah, they're making the PSYOPs obvious on purpose. A few others, again, other people explaining what was meant by certain things that I said in the article. Another person asked the question, what was I supposed to get from all of that? The person responded that the assassination attempt was staged and that there are still good reasons for staging it, and that more will be coming whether we like it or not. Another person added their own comments, and they said, with the amount of armed soldiers, National Guard, maybe PSYOP warfare officers, in addition to the cops, Secret Service, and the rest of the security detail, there is no way there would be a clear runway for anyone, let alone a shooter, to sprint through the halls of the hotel right into the ballroom without anyone physically being in the way from stopping them, unless it was planned and coordinated. Yeah. And that also was noted by both the left wing, so to speak, and the right wing media. Even those media pundits were like, this place was not secure in the slightest. No one was checking passes. No one was, you weren't going through metal detectors. It was nothing like that. I mean, the doors were open and people were walking in and out and people could basically go anywhere they wanted. I mean, all sides of the media aisle, so to speak, were commenting on the whole thing, saying that security was lax as far as they thought. But yeah, again, the comments were nice and generous and everything, and that's cool. Again, that's the point, is to put out something that can easily be shared, that makes sense to people. They can share it with people that they know, or if somebody's questioning the whole thing, they can just copy and paste the article and move it on to them and educate somebody and get them to look at something in a different way. Now, with that said, there were, again, lots of details that the media never even asked. Certainly not the DOJ, not Jeanine Pirro. They didn't ask a lot of questions, and they should have. And even Fox News isn't asking a number of different questions. They even threw up this timeline, which is bizarre and has a million holes in it. It says, timeline of suspected gunman Cole Allen's plan. And I should say this too, there were individuals speculating that his name really isn't Cole Allen. and that his initials are almost CIA. That's a stretch, but who's to say? Either way, it says April 6th, Allen makes a reservation at the Washington Hilton Hotel for 3 nights from April 24th through April 26th. Then on April 21st, Allen travels by train from his home near Los Angeles. April 23rd, Allen arrives in Chicago, boards new train to Washington, D.C. April 24th, at 1 p.m., Allen arrives in Washington, D.C. April 24th at 3 p.m., Allen checks into room at Washington Hilton Hotel and remains there overnight. And then April 25th at 8 p.m., Allen approaches and runs through a magnetometer holding a long gun. So apparently there was a metal detector there, I guess. And yeah, but holding a long gun? Didn't look like it. It says Secret Service reports hearing a loud gunshot. Secret Service officer VG is shot in the chest. VG fires multiple times at Allen, who falls to the ground and is arrested. If there were multiple shots, was Allen even hit? No one even asked the question if he was actually hit with a bullet. Not to mention, what are the odds of you being shot in the chest with a shotgun at relatively close range? And only those beads or whatever it is, again, that was used, I don't know if it was a slug or what, if it was even a shotgun. Who really knows? And frankly, it's almost an inconsequential detail because it seems fake. But what are the odds of that hitting a vest and not hitting any other part of the body? Again, it just seems bizarre. And they never answered nor asked the question whether or not the so-called shooter running through the lobby was actually hit himself. So, a lot of holes there. How did he get the guns from point A to point B? He allegedly had 3 guns. Do you travel with 3 guns, 1 pistol and a shotgun and a rifle by train from Los Angeles all the way to Washington, D.C. without anybody noticing? Is that a thing? Were the guns waiting for him? Do you have footage of him carrying the guns on the train? Again, these are the questions that aren't being asked by anybody, and they're not being answered. And I would expect that people are not going to ask these questions in the future, and they're not going to get answers either. The individual's already in court. That's basically it. This psyop is pretty much all wrapped up, except for what comes in the aftermath of all of it. But there was this post from the Justice Cometh on X, and they said moves and counter moves. The door was left open for an MK Ultra clown to make a move, and they took the bait. Hook, line, and sinker. Now disclosure comes. The web is being uncovered in real time. This is a military operation at its finest. This is how moves and counter moves are played, folks. Not to mention, side note, and they're right, is that, as I said in the Substack article, and of course on the show in the last episode, is that the media had their own psyop planned, specifically having to do with some staged walkout. Again, that was going to take place during dinner, or certainly after dinner when Trump would speak, or what have you. So, you talk about engaging in a psyop to counter another psyop, and then control the entire media space and media narrative on that evening. It's pretty evident that the White Hats did that, and they took it away from the media apparatus. Paul Sperry also said this at the bottom of the post. It says, developing federal investigators are looking into a possible connection between arrested would-be Trump assassin Cole Thomas Allen, CTA, about as close as you could get to CIA, I suppose. And it says Stacey Abrams' fair fight action, as well as the radical Black Lives Matter, and then he said developing. That would be an interesting connection. Again, how many people knew of this individual? How many hands were in the cookie jar? And again, if there are a lot of hands in the cookie jar and you're using the military to surveil these people on a consistent basis, there's very little they're going to be able to get away with. You've heard me say it here before, and I wrote about it on Substack back during the Butler event. That was a perfect example of getting a pretty decent idea as to what the bad guys wanted to do, and then you jump the gun. And you plan your own psyop to counter their existing psyop and catch them in the process. Charlie Kirk thing, same event, same thing. This one, same thing. And the funny part, again, is that, sorry, and it is funny, is that everybody's being woken up to these psyops. Everybody. People on the left, too. And we're sitting out here, as far right as we are, we're sitting way out here and we're going, hello? This isn't new. This has been going on for, good Lord, since the invention of false flags during the pirate days. I mean, people dressing in disguise to pretend to be somebody they're not to accomplish something. That's a psychological operation too. All of this stuff. The Count of Monte Cristo, for God's sakes. I mean, it's the entire plot of that also. You're trying to give off the perception that a particular wavelength of thought is the only wavelength of thought that exists. And then you can use that against endless people to accomplish what you want to accomplish, to prove particular points, or again, enact revenge, catch the bad guy, etc., etc. But we're out here and we're going, yeah, this isn't new. And other people, again, regardless of their political affiliation or where they sit politically on any issue, they're all figuring this out now. So I think it's kind of neat in the standpoint of numerous people figuring it out regardless of what political leaning they have, because psyops exist. They're a real thing. I want to play this quick piece of audio. This was from Melania Trump, the First Lady of the United States, and she's kind of letting people know what's going on here in her own way. Again, she's talking about people thinking for themselves and learning on their own and using artificial intelligence in a positive way to help them dig into issues maybe of the past, or help them, again, facilitate a particular wavelength of thought, but not relying on artificial intelligence to make all of the decisions for you. Because, of course, that takes away then the human element. But at the same time, these are the words that no First Lady previously has ever said, and she's telling people, don't believe everything you see. Don't believe everything that you hear. Think for yourself and weed through this information, and in fact, do it quietly. If you have, a regular job of some kind, like all of these school teachers who got caught up in this trap yet again, and I'm going to go through some of them here in just a little bit, but these are not the words that any previous First Lady has mentioned, which sets this lady apart from the rest. And this is good advice. This is good advice for just about anybody. So very quickly, before I mention one more thing about this psyop, give her a listen in 3, 2, 1.
In the new era, the most powerful skill is knowing what to ask, why it matters, and how to think beyond the worst answer. I encourage you to be stubbornly curious, think outside the box, and question everything. Although artificial intelligence can generate images and information, only humans can generate meaning and purpose. Deep thinking, patience, and staying curious are where purpose begins. Today, I urge you to take action. Use AI to unlock new parts of your imagination. Lead with your ideas, stay sharp, but remember, never surrender your thinking to AI. Choose to let your imagination drive your intellectual progress, but never use AI as a quick solution. Be intellectually honest with yourself. Use AI as a tool, but do not let it replace your personal intelligence. Pursue understanding with passion like no generation before. Make an impact. Knowledge is power. Nobody can take it away from you. Good luck, and I wish you a successful year ahead.
Now, first of all, I don't know when that video was done and conducted. I don't know. Again, she said, have a successful year ahead. Was that the beginning of the school year back in August of last year? Was that in January of this year? I'm not sure. Either way, regardless of the timing, it's antithetical to what the education system wants with children and wants with minors. It's the total opposite of anything that government wants with youth. Is they want, again, the controllers, so to speak, they certainly in the education system, they want everybody and all the minors and their parents to do what the system says. She's saying, don't allow that to happen. Always be curious, always critically think for yourself, stand up for yourself. Again, don't rely on AI as a quick answer. Let it guide you a little bit, but always think for yourself and act accordingly. I mean, these are the opposite sayings and phrases and messaging that the education system would want people to believe. She knows how bad the education system is in our country. She knows how bad the media is. She knows how bad the government is. And for her to make that announcement and say those things, I mean, that's good. How many ears and eyes and brains does it hit? That's anybody's guess. But it's positive messaging, and like I said earlier, it's something that we haven't heard a previous First Lady say. So kudos to saying that, because it's a big deal, and it spits right in the face, again, of the establishment, which is good. Now I want to get into this, which again possibly ties back to the MK Ultra aspect of this Cole Allen kid. It has to do with what's called voice to skull, and this is a real thing, but it's referred to also as V2K or V2S. It refers to the concept or alleged technology of transmitting sounds, voices, or messages directly into a person's head or brain without any external speakers or devices audible to others nearby. Again, this is Grok's breakdown of this, but it says scientific basis. The underlying principle of V2K is the microwave auditory effect, also known as the Frey effect. Discovered in the 1960s by Alan Frey, it involves pulsed microwave or radio frequency energy that can create audible clicks, buzzing, or even modulated speech-like sounds inside the skull by causing rapid thermal expansion in brain tissue or stimulating the auditory nerve/cortex. The effect is real and has been demonstrated in laboratory settings under controlled conditions. Again, this is the MK Ultra Manchurian Candidate kind of stuff. So it is real. And it is as real as the very first Manchurian Candidate movie, I believe, with Frank Sinatra, if I'm not mistaken. The description goes on here. It says, again, the U.S. Department of Defense thesaurus entry describes V2K as the following, quote, a neuroelectromagnetic device which uses microwave transmission of sound into the skull of persons or animals by way of pulse-modulated microwave radiation, unquote. It also mentions applications like silent sound devices or using it as a non-lethal tool, like electronic scarecrow, quote-unquote, for birds. Common usage in context, it says conspiracy theories and targeted individuals. V2K is most widely discussed in communities claiming government, military, or covert groups use advanced direct energy weapons for electronic harassment, mind control, surveillance, or torture. Well, that's not far-fetched. That's well known. It says affected individuals report hearing voices, commands, noises, or subliminal messages that others cannot hear, often linked to remote neural monitoring, or RNM, or broader gang stalking, quote-unquote. Many describe it as psychological warfare or synthetic telepathy. It says these claims frequently appear in forums, petitions, patents, some speculative, or from individuals and self-published materials. Symptoms often overlap with mental health conditions like schizophrenia, leading to debates about whether reports stem from technology, misperception, or psychiatric issues. It wraps up here and it says military research interest. It says direct energy and non-lethal weapons research, including acoustic and microwave systems, has existed for decades, with public declassifications and patents on related tech. However, widespread operational deployment for individual targeting remains unproven and highly controversial outside of fringe or advocacy circles. Some discussions frame it as potential voice of God, quote-unquote, weapon for psychological operations. Yeah. Bingo. And there you go. Again, you're not going to get this on Fox News. They're not going to bring up V2K. It isn't going to happen. It says, in summary, V2K is a mix of established physics, microwave hearing, and unverified claims of weaponized application. The science of inducing perceived sounds via EM waves exists, but large-scale covert use against civilians is not publicly confirmed and is often dismissed by mainstream sources as conspiracy-related, unquote. Yep, because they have to label it that way. They have to pass it off and just say, well, that's a conspiracy theory, and the only people who believe in that are conspiracy theorists. I mean, that's the only approach they have, because they can't dive into the actual literature that openly says, yes, this has been done in controlled settings, which means why on earth would it not be done out in the open? Again, of course it's been done out in the open. You have Butler, Pennsylvania. You have the Charlie Kirk event. The individual who was detained in the Charlie Kirk event, this Tyler Robinson, I mean, the dude's nuts. But he was set up that way. He was set up to be that way. And then, of course, what they do is they paint it as being a left-wing extremist, quote unquote, that they're online sharing extremist views and being influenced by shoot-'em-up video games, of course, that's always the excuse, as well as the left-wing media. I'm not doubting that the left-wing media in itself is its own brainwashing apparatus to get people to be violent. We know that it is. It works on your average citizen. But it would most certainly work on a controlled element who's being experimented on or being, again, specifically trained to do something like this. And then if they were controlled and they were incentivized, would they be convinced that this is the thing to do, to go after a sitting president or anybody in his administration or kill innocent people? Of course. That's not a far leap to make. Not on a broken mind. Not one that's been, again, broken naturally through the mainstream media, which, as I said, is its own brainwashing apparatus. Operation Mockingbird, after all. And then, with just a little nudge from some controlled individuals, you'd end up with something like this. But in summary, I think the good guys got to it first. They knew what was going on. They were tracking this person, and they went, yeah, we'll let him in. But we'll make sure, again, that nobody gets hurt, nobody gets shot. Maybe we'll intervene on the weapons to some extent. Maybe we'll put some blanks in there, whatever it is. That way people hear bang, bang, but they don't actually end up being wounded to any extent. So, there you go. The psyops continue, ladies and gentlemen. They won't stop. There will be more, and you can guarantee it. Now, in typical fashion, you had the teacher meltdowns, and a lot of them were coming out of Ohio, oddly enough, in the general area where I live. Here's a few, just very quickly. And again, this is something I've spoken about before. You would think that these individuals would learn by now that when something like this happens, that they don't take to TikTok or Facebook or whatever platform they use, talking into their phones or typing into their phones on social media about what they wish would have happened regarding the death of a president. In particular, as a school teacher. You would think that they would know of all of the resignations, all of the firings, all of the letters that went out. The biggest one that we saw was the first time, during the Butler, Pennsylvania thing, the aftermath of that. In fact, I'll take it a step further. That was the first, where a lot of people, again, were losing their minds online, and why didn't we get them, and, why couldn't the aim be better, and all these just insane posts that these people were making in the education profession who are in charge of your children. And again, that doesn't even disturb some parents. They're 100% fine with that kind of rhetoric. But that was the first one. The second one that made people lose their minds and start literally drafting letters with their signatures at the bottom as school officials was when Donald Trump won the election. Don't worry, everybody, we're going to be safe. Don't worry, these are trying times, and It's an uncertain future, but we're here for you, and if you need help and counseling, then we'll make sure and get you all the services you need. I mean, you remember all that shit? All those crazy-ass letters that those principals and superintendents were writing? The number of people that were placed on leave, the number of people that were fired, suspended, the whole thing. I mean, my God. You can't say brainwashing doesn't exist. It is a very real thing because these people are flipping nuts. But so are these individuals. Here's a Corinne Baum, fired, terminated by the Bridgetown Child Care Center. I believe this was in the Cincinnati, Ohio area. Let's see very quickly here. Yep, Cincinnati, Ohio. She posted on a TikTok video reacting to the shooting, saying, paraphrased, quote, "Man, there's been a few creators on here saying that like Friday or yesterday could have been the day when I wake up to that news, but not that news." And then she did say at the end of the video, which again, she of course was disgusting with wanting him dead, but at the same time, she openly said, maybe we need to start figuring out whether or not these are real or not. Well, she's partially right. Even a blind squirrel finds an acorn once in a while, and there you go. That was the little pearl in the clam, so to speak, the rest covered in mud, but there was a little pearl there. In the fact that she's openly recognizing that these are staged. Is she a leftist? Of course. Huge glasses, TikTok, female preschool teacher. She checks all the boxes. But at the same time, she's starting to recognize, as nuts as she is, she's starting to recognize that some of these are staged, because they are. There was this one, a Patrick Meyer out of Wisconsin, social studies teacher at the, no way I get that right, Kukuna, who knows, who cares, high school, posted on X, now deleted, quote, "I am not impressed with recent presidential assassinations. It's effing embarrassing. Booth, Gateau, other dude, Oswald, blah, 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 was all in this would all be spitting in their graves, rather." And then it says, "Make Americans great assassins again, MAGAA, sad, exclamation point, unquote. This mocked the failed attempt and referenced successful historical presidential assassins." Again, they just aren't learning. They're not learning. They're not saying, I'm in the public light, I'm a public figure. I work, again, in the public sector for government, which is a school system, because they get government funds, so when you're a school employee, you're a government employee. And then they don't learn from past events, and they just rinse and repeat every single time. There were other individuals, again, I've seen other videos, another gal with blue hair, dressing up in cosplay or whatever the hell, and she's, she's basically saying the exact same thing. And she's in some Cincinnati area school also. Again, you can get on Libs of TikTok and run through the whole list. It's overwhelming, but people are not learning. They're just not learning. And the only funny part in it, I think, is that they're losing their jobs over nothing. They're losing their jobs over their misinterpretation of what they're actually seeing. And of course, because they're in the brainwashed business of the education quote-unquote system, they don't know that what they're commenting on has been force-fed to them by the very media that they so readily rely on. I mean, they're married to it. They have no other hobbies. They have no other jobs. They don't read books. They don't raise children. And if they do, then of course they're raising them poorly. But they're just addicted to watching TV and believing everything that's on it. They feel informed when they turn on their iPhone and they look at the Apple News app. They read it, believe it, and then that's it. It's the wrong news aggregate to pay attention to because, again, it's basically like you're watching the mainstream media. So it's embarrassing, but it'll happen again. I've said it before. I'll keep saying it. It'll happen again. There'll be another Psyop, another event, and these people will take to their social media accounts, run their mouths, lose their jobs, and be shocked as to why. And the internet doesn't forget this kind of thing. And with AI the way that it is now, All I had to do was ask Grok, give me a list of the teachers who have been fired, ridiculed, or made public comments on their social media accounts about this that received media attention. All I have to do is ask an AI system that, and their names pop up. Good luck getting back into the business. Hopefully they wake up and they recognize that the business has misled them their entire lives. And they, turn over a new leaf, so to speak. But like with most psychological operations, as I've said before and written about, and you're well aware, is that there are many moving parts and many things, again, that individuals who conduct such a psychological operation want to accomplish. And sometimes that involves forwarding investigations and forwarding documentation in or around the time of a psychological operation because they know that the media is paying attention to other things and maybe they don't want so much media attention on a particular subject that's happening sort of behind the curtain. This is probably one of them, this next topic that I want to bring up, which has to do with Uranium One, Iran, and the Clintons. And of course, Obama being directly involved as well. This was from Observing Consciousness over on X, and they said the following. This document activates the Uranium One controversy node through direct pressure on DOJ and FBI, bringing focus to custody, approvals, and line of sight over uranium as it moved through U.S. channels. Linkages abound. It says the focus aligns with a live operational thread centered on Iran. Trump continues to anchor on securing Iran's nuclear dust, quote unquote, pointing to enriched uranium that can be recovered, measured, and verified on the ground. The same material sits at the center of both timelines, one in governance review and one in active control. Uranium carries a measurable fingerprint through isotopic ratios and processing signatures, which allows origin and movement to be traced with high confidence. That traceability links the earlier cycle associated with Barack Obama and Hillary Clinton to the current cycle focused on Iran. Governance oversight and approvals connect directly to physical location recovery and enforcement, and the system converges on a single constraint. Full visibility and custody of uranium set the ceiling on escalation and pressure across both layers, bringing that node into alignment and stabilizes the broader energy and security landscape. They have an AI-generated image here, which I want to read through very quickly, and then the actual document that was dropped by the acting AG regarding Senator Chuck Grassley, the Clinton Foundation, and Uranium One. But this image first says, one material, one thread, total control. Uranium connects the past, the present, and the future. Uranium is the apex of the energy hierarchy. It is traceable. It is strategic. It defines the ceiling of escalation. And it says the past, Uranium One, governance layer. It says the document activates, hang on just a minute, there we go. The document activates the Uranium One node through direct pressure on DOJ and FBI, bringing focus into custody approvals in line of sight over uranium as it moved through U.S. channels, the cycle associated with Barack Obama and Hillary Clinton. Lives in the governance layer where oversight, approvals, and transparency came into question. And then it shows again Uranium One being a company investing in our energy. Key questions that remain central: who approved it, who saw it, who controlled it, and how did it move, and why was visibility limited? And then it says the objective is clear regarding the present physical layer, which is Iran's nuclear material. Donald Trump continues to anchor on securing Iran's nuclear dust, enriched uranium that can be recovered, measured, and verified. The U.S. intends to take or secure the material, linked to negotiations and military pressure, connected to the Strait of Hormuz leverage, and Iran is pressured to surrender its nuclear material. And it says the objective is clear: control, verify, secure, remove or control the uranium, and drop the escalation ceiling. And then the future: traceable, verifiable, accountable. This is the future verification layer. Uranium carries a fingerprint through isotopic ratios and processing signatures. It can be traced from origins to endpoint with high confidence. It's mined, it's processed, it's enriched, it's transferred, and then it's verified. It says how uranium is traceable. Isotopic ratios create a unique signature. Enrichment levels are measurable. Processing methods leave a chemical footprint. Reactor history and usage can be identified, and chain of custody can be reconstructed. Traceability connects the past to the present. It eliminates plausible deniability, it creates accountability, and it enforces reality. And then at the bottom of this image, it says the following. It says, the full picture, one continuous thread. The past involves governance, oversight, and approvals. The material itself, uranium, is moved and tracked. The present involves physical control, location, and pressure. The future involves verification, traceability, and accountability, and the outcome is full visibility, full custody, and stability. Again, this is not what the bad guys wanted. The bad guys wanted to be able to move uranium from point A to point B as much as humanly possible under the table, behind closed doors, and behind the curtain, so that no one could see where it was going and what it was being used for. Well, we've pretty much stopped that, which is good. It says the energy hierarchy. Uranium sits at the apex. Nuclear material at the top, oil and gas below that, financial systems below that, and then governance and information below that. Again, I don't think that nuclear weapons are a thing, but if uranium can be used to make a very big bomb, then so be it. But that's just my 2 cents. I could be wrong. But it says the conclusion, control the apex, control the system. Uranium is the highest leverage point in the system. It's traceable. It cannot be hidden forever. Pressure across governance, physical control, and verification brings the node into alignment. Once uranium is fully visible and contained, the escalation ceiling drops. Therefore, there's no more pressure. There's no more scare tactics. There's no more moving something that's allegedly illegal and hidden when it's out in the open. It says the system stabilizes then, and then leverage is contained, and the future becomes predictable. One material, one constraint, one outcome, full visibility, full custody, global stability. That is the end game, unquote. Again, an AI-generated image, probably from a military summary of what this is all about, and then you have this, which is the document from, let's see here. Let me get you the exact person who sent it. This is Chuck Grassley and the Committee on the Judiciary Committee in the Senate, moving this to Todd Blanche, the Acting Attorney General, on April 27th of 2026. It says, the Honorable Kash Patel, Director of the Federal Bureau of Investigation, as well received this. It says, Dear Acting Attorney General and Director Patel, for over a decade, I've raised concerns regarding alleged actions taken from former Secretary of State Hillary Clinton, including her use of non-government email for official business, mishandling of highly classified information, potential campaign finance violations, and dubious Clinton Foundation financial dealings. For instance, on May 17th of 2016, I wrote a letter to the then Federal Bureau of Investigation FBI Director James Comey, raising concerns that many of the emails found on her non-government server blurred lines between the actions taken on behalf of the State Department, Clinton Foundation, and Teneo, a private firm founded by a former counselor to President Clinton. Then, on July 6, 2016, I requested information from the then Director Comey regarding public corruption issues and the Clinton Foundation and questioned the director on whether the FBI investigated the Clinton Foundation regarding former President Clinton's speaking fees from the foreign governments while Hillary Clinton was Secretary of State. Further, on August 8, 2016, I wrote to the Department of Justice asking the department to explain its reported decision to drop reported inquiries into Clinton Foundation and State Department interactions, specifically allegations that the State Department during Secretary Clinton's tenure took favorable action for Clinton Foundation donors. Then it says more recently, on December 15th of 2025, I released records revealing the DOJ and FBI's apparent efforts to shut down investigations into the Clinton Foundation. Now, I'm not going to read this whole document because it's long, but it's 91 pages. Clearly not going to read the whole thing, but this is where it gets into Uranium One. It says, additionally, since 2015, I've raised concerns regarding the acquisition of Uranium One, a then owner of the U.S.-based uranium assets. No way I get that right. Let's see, Adam Remdizolato, ARMZ, a subsidiary of Russia's state-owned energy corporation, Rosatom, I don't know. Specifically, in June of 2015, I wrote to several member agencies on the Committee on Foreign Investment in the United States, raising concerns related to the national security implications of the acquisition, which effectively ceded some U.S. uranium production capacity to the Russian government. My work noted that there were also concerns related to potential conflicts of interest between the State Department and the transacting parties, specifically that the chairman of the Uranium One at the time, Ian Telfer, had made donations to the Clinton Foundation in the millions of dollars, while Hillary Clinton was Secretary of State. Additionally, in October of 2017, I sent letters to several federal agencies requesting information on whether CFIUS was informed of ongoing criminal investigations into Rosatom officials, as well as officials at the Tenex and Tenem, both subsidiaries of Rosatom, at the time of the transaction. Again, this is all being brought up around Hillary Clinton. And Chuck Grassley is in the Q posts saying, trust Grassley. This is it's just an interesting timing here of this particular letter to the FBI director, the DOJ acting director, having to do with Hillary Clinton and Uranium One. This is not going away. I mean, this is out in the open. This is consistently being re-mentioned, certainly to people like us, because, again, something is going to go down regarding the Clintons here in the future. The letter, rather, written by Chuck Grassley here, signed off by him, I should say, wraps up, and then every page, rather, following that, which is the vast majority of the 86 some odd pages, and of course it's 91 in total, but his initial letter is 6 pages long. It says, based on the information provided to my office, the outcome of these investigative matters is unclear, as well as the outcome of the investigations and the additional allegations raised by the FBI. As such, I am requesting DOJ and FBI provide answers to the following no later than May 11th of 2026. Number 1, provide all SAR reviewed, produced, and associated with the FBI's Clinton Foundation Uranium One investigation. Number 2, provide all 302s and intelligence summaries produced as part of the FBI's Clinton Foundation Uranium One investigation. Number 3, what was the outcome of the Uranium One investigation, as well as the outcome of the additional pay-to-play allegations raised in Exhibit 1? Provide all records. Number 4, provide all transcripts of interviews conducted as part of the FBI's Clinton Foundation Uranium One investigation. And number 5, finally, provide all emails and records in Exhibit 1, as well as those records produced in conjunction with requests in questions 1 through 4 in an unredacted format. Thank you for your prompt review and response. If you have any questions, please contact Tucker Aiken of Chairman Grassley's staff at the following phone number. Sincerely, Charles Grassley. Again, there's no way he'd write this letter, and of course he didn't write it. The lawyers did, which means someone in the military got a hold of them and said, now put this out to the Judiciary Committee. Now write this out, have them sign off on it, put their names at the top, and then move it on to the AG and the FBI director. And we'll force this out into the light. They're keeping the Clintons out in front here on purpose. They're keeping Barack Obama out in front on purpose. I don't think I mentioned it not that long ago, or I don't think I mentioned it at all, but it was last week, I believe, when Jenna Bush, one of the George W. Bush daughters, who apparently works for NBC and the Today Show, she interviewed every past living president. She interviewed her dad, Bill Clinton, and Barack Obama. Why would she do that? She didn't interview Donald Trump. She just interviewed the three of them regarding the state of the country and where do you see things today and do you have hope for our country and blah, blah, blah. And like clockwork, they all took the interview. They all answered in their own political jargon ways. But again, why are you trying to keep those people relevant from that angle also? Was that forced? Was that a white hat operation too? It's possible. It's also possible, again, they're just trying to look good in the public eye. Make it look like, I ain't done nothing. I'm not guilty of anything. I'm retired. I don't have anything to do with anything. I didn't do anything back then. I'm not doing anything now. I mean, maybe, again, it was just trying to run cover for him. But either way, it's a bad look because it keeps him in the limelight. And that's where Donald Trump wants him, is right in the limelight and right in the spotlight because sunlight is the best disinfectant. So this is going to get interesting. Again, they almost always run to the media when they know that something bad is about to drop or something bad is about to happen because they want to look relevant and they want to look innocent and they want to look favorable to the public, so they think. Past presidents, certainly now, are about as irrelevant gets, but only relevant when it comes to their illegality. They're not remembered for anything positive that they did because they didn't do anything positive. They destroyed our country, a little at a time. I would go so far as to say that Bush was worse than Clinton. Clinton was terrible. There's no doubt about that, but Bush was worse than him. And then you have Barack Obama, who was worse than Bush. But they were all assigned and given the role to slowly destroy this country and participate in that destruction. And they played their role, which is terrible. I pray that that's not the case with Donald Trump. He's made too many good moves for that to be the case, I think, but there's some questionable moves, as I've said before, that are questionable. So I'm not going to claim to know all the ins and outs, but we're just going to have to see how this one plays out. Okay. Here's another one I wanted to cover very quickly because this is getting a lot of attention, and this has to do with what's called the Advanced Impaired Driving Technology, or Section 24220 of the Infrastructure Investment and Jobs Act. This was enacted on November 15th of 2021 during the whole COVID Trojan horse thing. And it's also referred to as the Honoring the Abbas Family Legacy to Terminate Drunk Driving Act in subsection F. It's located in Division B, Title 4, Subtitle B, Vehicle Safety of the IIJA. This is the kill switch within automobiles that are going to be made after 2027. As it stands now, based on this AI explanation, it's still sort of up in the air. And there's a lot of debate back and forth, again, as to what this is really about, because it is an infringement on your ability to move, which is a First Amendment violation, at least the way that I see it. So they're framing this as it being, again, the cameras inside of an automobile with all of the technology that exists in automobiles now, and the cameras that exist outside of an automobile watching you walk up to your own automobile, that it will be able to detect whether or not, so the machine says, if you're impaired or not. And then if you are impaired, your automobile will not turn on, let alone go into the drive position. Now, I would already say that this is already happening, and it's already happened to an extent, because as it turns out now, in the new Chevy Silverados and a lot of these new pickup trucks and automobiles, you can't move your car into reverse unless you're buckled in. So in a lot of these modern automobiles now, it knows your weight. It can detect whether or not it's you sitting in the front seat of the car or a stranger. It recognizes your weight and it recognizes your seat settings. So a computer will even tell you that it will recognize that you're not the number one driver in the automobile, and then it will adjust your seat settings based on your differentiated weight from the person who actually normally drives the automobile. That's disturbing in itself. And then it detects whether or not something is in the back seat. Don't forget to check the back seat before you get out of your automobile. There's something back there. I mean, the computer will alert you to something like that also. Me personally, I'm an advocate for classic cars. That way you don't have to screw around with any of this nonsense. I think one of the reasons why classic cars are making a comeback is because it doesn't have these kinds of tyrannical technologies within them, and at the same time, you can fix them when they break, as opposed to these newer automobiles, which are far harder, because you have to have a computer system to plug in, and then change a part, and then you have to have the computer sync to the new part, and then all of this other stuff. But again, a machine deciding whether or not you get to drive or not is alarming. I don't know if I've brought this up on the show or not before, but your ability to get in a car and immediately put it into drive and go without buckling yourself in is a safety concern. You should be able to get in your car and put it in drive and step on the gas to get away from a dangerous situation. Like if you're being robbed, or you're being shot at, or somebody's running after you. You have to say, hang on, robber, slow down just a minute, I need to buckle in. And then I can put it in reverse, and then I can back out, and then I can put it in drive, and then I can go. But if I'm panicked in that, maybe the computer detects that my eye and the look on my eyes isn't right, and my heart rate is somehow askew or at a higher elevated level, and then it won't let me drive because it thinks that I'm impaired, when in fact it's just a stressful situation that I'm trying to get myself away from. This is a serious problem. Again, this is the machine controlling the masses here. And why anybody, any congressman or woman or otherwise, would approve this, there's only one reason. It's lobbying. It's a financial kickback. It's the only reason they would approve it. Yes, because again, I mean, this is government in a nutshell. They would frame it as, we're going to keep drunk drivers from getting behind the wheel because the automobile will be able to detect if they're intoxicated or not. But as we know, there will be false positives all the time. I mean, hell, an AI system thinks that a bag of Cheetos in a kid's backpack in school is a gun. And then he's thrown to the ground, detained, searched, and whoops-a-daisy, he just likes nacho cheese Doritos. He's not armed at all. How many times is that going to happen on the road? How many accidents will that cause? Where's the liability in that? Well, there won't be liability because you'll sign off when you buy your car. You'll sign off because it'll be in all the fine print that if you get hurt, killed, or otherwise, you can't sue anybody. Me personally, I can't imagine an insurance company wanting to take this on. This seems like an insurance nightmare. This is right up there with trying to insure a Tesla. And then insurance companies don't do it. They don't insure electric vehicles because they're dangerous. I think automobiles that have all of this technology in them, they don't have to have the batteries in them, just the computer chips, the screens, the whole thing. That's dangerous. Isn't it funny that they pass all these state laws, like in Ohio, hands-free driving, they say. If we catch you on your cell phone, then we have the right to pull you over. But don't mind the 2 giant television screens that are on your dashboard, because that's not distracted driving in the slightest. Again, the hypocrisy is all over the place. Not to mention you take into the account of, say, for example, police departments or the government being able to turn your car off at a moment's notice if a car is stolen, or even if, again, you're driving down the road and all of a sudden everything shuts down because they've detected the wrong car. And then you're left stranded in the side of the road or the middle of the highway, or you're wrecked into because, again, the wrong car was hacked into. It's just, you talk about an absolute nightmare of a situation. So here's the implementation and status as of 2026 regarding this particular measure. It says the NHTSA has conducted research, issued reports to Congress, and engaged stakeholders, including through the Driver Alcohol Detection System for Safety Program, or DADSS. An advanced notice of proposed rulemaking or related notices appeared in the Federal Register in early of 2024. However, the final rule has not yet been issued, leading to ongoing reports on challenges such as technological maturity, false positives/negatives, privacy concerns, and integration costs. The NHTSA continues to prioritize this under the IIJA mandate. It says this provision has sparked public debate, with supporters emphasizing its potential to save thousands of lives annually and critics raising concerns about overreach, data privacy, or technological limitations. It says that it builds on existing authority to set vehicle safety standards and does not preempt stricter state laws. In short, Section 24220 is a targeted safety mandate, so they say, aimed at embedding impairment detection technology directly into new vehicles as standard equipment, with built-in accountability mechanisms to ensure timely implementation. Again, it's ongoing regulatory developments, blah, blah, blah. But I'm telling you. Now, it doesn't say anything about a breathalyzer detection or anything like that. It basically says it can use driver monitoring, for example, like eye tracking, steering behavior, or other performance metrics for broader impairment, like drugs, fatigue, or distraction, or direct BAC detection, blood alcohol content, via breath, touch, or other non-invasive means, or both. So, yeah. It says the system must work without any active input from the driver. So no blowing into a breathalyzer or touching a sensor. Well, again, can you imagine? Can you imagine having to do that every time you got in your car or your truck or your van or SUV or whatever, blowing into your steering wheel just to back out of your own driveway? What an absolute dystopian nightmare. I can't imagine this actually going through. I really can't. There have to be some lawyers standing up against this. It seems unconstitutional at face value, but that's just my 2 cents. Anyway, continue to keep an eye on that one, to say the least. And yeah, advocate for your local classic car. That's my suggestion. Let me see here. Okay, jab-related stuff. One thing, and then I'm going to dip out here. This is from Ars Technica from just a few days ago. Europe, not the United States, first to authorize Moderna's combo mRNA flu/COVID vaccine. What could possibly go wrong? Moderna's mRNA-based combination vaccine against both flu and COVID-19 has gotten the green light in Europe, but it continues to be shelved in the United States where it was developed. This week, the European Commission authorized Moderna to market the vaccine mRNA-0183 or Combirax, there we go, Combrix, making it the world's first authorized combination shot for the 2 respiratory viruses. You can kiss your ass goodbye if you take this one. It says the decision follows a positive review, I'm sure it was, in February from a key European Medicines Agency committee which paved the way for the approval. Moderna CEO Stefan Bancel welcomed the news, quote, "By combining protection against 2 significant respiratory viruses in a single dose, our vaccine aims to simplify immunization for adults, particularly those at high risk." Bancel said in a press release, the Combirax offers an important new option for Europeans while also aiming to strengthen the resilience of healthcare systems across Europe, unquote. Don't take it. I don't think I have to say more. Don't take it because COVID and the flu don't exist, but poison does. It says the U.S. anti-vaccine policies. The authorization allows the vaccine to be available in all 27 European Union members, as well as Iceland, Liechtenstein, and Norway. It could hit pharmacy shelves this upcoming flu season. Moderna said it was working closely with national authorities to support local access. Remember the last episode, at the end of the last episode, when I said they were planning for a flu pandemic? Possibly this fall? Well, I think this is your smoking gun right here. A COVID flu combo shot from Moderna, where multiple people will be dumb enough to get it, and then they'll fall over, and then they'll die. We've seen this playbook before. And then the media will say, look at all these flu and COVID deaths. But they seem to be flu deaths, not COVID. So make sure you get this jab, because if you do, you'll be safe. Oh, look, more are dead after they took the shots. There's no correlation. Just keep moving. Don't look here. Don't pay attention to that. And then they lock people down again in Europe. More tyranny. And the beat goes on, and the beat goes on. The article wraps up, and it says, meanwhile, in February this year, the FDA, here in old America, shockingly refused to review Moderna's application for mRNA 1010, a decision made by political appointee Vinaya Prasad over objections by FDA staff. A week later, it reversed the decision. The FDA is now expected to issue a decision on the flu vaccine by August 5th. Prasad is set to exit the agency at the end of this month, unquote. Do not comply. I think that goes without saying, but just in case, do not comply. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for listening as always. Share the Substack around if you're interested. I appreciate you reading it and listening to this as always as well. New Substack on Friday morning, new episode Friday as well, and I will catch you then. Peace. Thank you for listening to American Education FM. Make sure and check out AmericanEducationFM.com for more information. Take care and God bless.